My how-to for my flash animation called Graffiti Wars. I'd say I probably chose to do a flash animation because I'd usually do build things, but I didn't have that to choose from, so I thought, flash animation doesn't seem so bad, and it ended up being that way. I enjoyed doing this, so. And how I did most of this, big bulk of how this was done was just tons of using the bone tool, like that guy right there moving his arm, right over here. Just bone tool, and then tons and tons of keyframes down here. What I'd do is I'd have him do the motions to build something like that, like the smiley face he's drawing. Then after I built those motions, I would go in and keyframe what I'd think, that motion would draw this much or so with each keyframe, and see how he'd eventually swing his arm there, draw parts of the circle for a smiley face. Then up here I'd have these two solid little motions right here. He'd pull back and then poke, and that would put a dot there for each eye, and then he'd do a little smile on it. And as for over here, it says this guy moving his arm rapidly, and voila, he draws a beautiful painting. And as they just progress through, they just draw more stuff on each other's stuff. Then right here, I decided to have them throw little balls of paint or color, whatever you want to call it. So I had a little ball here, motion tween across the screen, just for the short amount of frames here. I think, frame 210 to 235, so it's just a 25 frame little piece. I'd motion tween it across the screen, and as it hit the other side, I'd delete the motion tween piece and just add a keyframe of a splatter. And then as I actually made the final video, I had it made a little splat noise. And see, then I added in a little picture to show that he's mad, little face. And then he throws one. And they just start to draw more stuff and more stuff. Oh, and this is just more bone tool. You can spin them at a central axis, which for me was right in between his arms. So I had him flip over. And as they just keep drawing stuff. And then at the end, he erases, which is just more keyframes. They see a question mark, makes them wonder why they were doing this, and I had them walk away. See, what I found wrong with a lot of this is some of these motions may not have been too fluid, like his little flip. I don't think went over entirely as the best as it could have. And there was one part here where he shakes, and I don't want him to shake. The guy on the left does. And as you can see, like in some places, his arm will slowly move here. But I didn't have the time to fix it, and I didn't notice the shaking one until I had it all done, which made me kind of mad, but just had to deal with it. Let me see if I can find the shaking. See, like I'll set their arms back and see as it's kind of moving lazily before he makes another movement. What I had to try to do before then, after motion that he stopped and up to his next one, he'd start moving his arm or something up to a position to start. The way I had to stop that is I had to go to and set a still pose of him right before he started the next motion, which is how I had to do every single one. It took me a while to figure out that issue. It was quite an irritating one for me. Still trying to find that one where he shakes. And the thing that really got me with it when I was building this was trying to do a walking animation. It's really hard to do with just stick figures. If I actually had real animated characters kind of thing that you could definitely see which leg was in front and all the other whatnot, it would be way easier, but I had to frame by frame draw it out, which could have went over way better.
Oh, sorry.
But it wasn't successful compared to what it could have done. But the rest of it went over pretty well because that was only 1245, 1270. That's the 35 frames. Singularly drew out. I know people are way better at this than I am, but I tried it, and that's my first time doing that, so I think it went decent for a first. This was my first ever flash animation. Took me a while to build. I had to learn the application along the way. And it's a fairly complex application, but once you start to get some of the fundamentals to it, you can really start messing with it. And it's more time consuming than it is just difficult to understand. Here, we'll play it through and see if we can find find some of those little issues where the guy was shaking and stuff. Let's see here. You can notice, see, like his arms twitching over there on the right. And see, he just raised up his shoulders. I didn't want him to do that. But I think it's as more stuff starts to come up on the drawings that you can see the one guy's shake rapidly, and it's very noticeable. Which I just could try to play that off as him being angry, but it just looks a little funny. I wasn't too ecstatic about that, but it happens. Let's see here if we can see him. Come on. I know he's going to do it. He may not do it in here, but I know it doesn't the final project stuff. When I exported it out and after I added sound effects, I started doing it. Maybe not. Well, it was right about, if I remember right, it was right about somewhere up in here, he'd shake rapidly. This guy right here would go side to side very fast. I don't know why he did it, but it did it. My guess is probably messed up with one of his still poses or something like that, and it probably goofed it up and probably gave him some issues. The guy on the right stayed pretty good. It was the guy on the left that gave me problems, plenty of problems. And another small issue that I just kind of noticed is it's more of a logistical error with just the character itself. The stuff on the right, the big painting and all that's the right guy's stuff. Guys right here, I was kind of just in a hurry to make it so they could cover it all up for the little racing scene. I had this guy drawing his own painting, which was not very smart on my part. I should have had him draw what the next guy draws right here. I should have had him draw that. Should have had him do this instead of the guy on the left. Say that's the only thing I'm really like, real logistical storyline error that I may have had. Yeah, and then, I've already talked about my walking animation and all that good stuff. But overall, this went pretty well for me. I mean, for a first, it went pretty well, but not as, an overall Flash animation. It could have been a lot better if I actually knew a lot about what I was doing. I may do this again in the future, but this usually isn't what I do. But I don't think I did too terrible for a first time. And that is my little how-to video on this. See you guys later.